So, in all of my years of watching Thunderbirds, have I never come across a more funny and hilarious episode than the Duchess assignment?
Oh, of course not.
Of course not, Lady Penelope.
And you see, this is how she speaks. Everything is so elongated, this poor lady.
Oh dear, Penelope. Now I've really lost everything. Every penny.
We're introduced to one of Lady Penelope's closest friends, the elderly, eccentric Duchess of Royston. And,
How do we know it's not Royston Vasey?
with a voice like that, I wouldn't be surprised if she was from Royston Vasey.
Well, she must be local.
She's got a very particular way of speaking.
Rent? Oh, cucumber sandwiches are delicious.
But no, we open up with the Duchess of Royston. I think her real name is Deborah, but she's established as being a friend of Lady Penelope's, and she's at this casino, and she's just gambling away all of her money and everything. It's established that she's got a massive gambling problem.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I've lost everything.
Alright, we're not going to do the whole episode like this, we'll just...
No, we'll... It'll slip out sometimes, but oh god.
Yeah, but she really is losing it. I mean, she says at the beginning she's lost over £750,000. That's £750,000.
Yeah, and she resorts to like putting one of her tiaras on the line. But it turns out that the whole place, the casino, is rigged, which I always found quite weird because she's playing at the roulette wheels, and the guy controls what number it lands on. And I always figured to myself, how can you control what the ball lands on? It's purely chance. Maybe it's magnets or something.
Yeah, bitch! Magnets! Oh!
Magnets. Right.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, the main story goes underway when Lady Penelope feels like she feels obliged to help out the Duchess, because not only has she lost all that money, but she's also her home is under the hammer at the moment, and her last resort is she has this original Picasso painting of a gazelle. It's the only possession of value that she's got left, so she's thinking of selling it to this guy in New York City, this entrepreneur who started up a corporation based on gazelles.
Yeah, we're not joking here. Everything is gazelle related. He has gazelle statues, he has gazelle paintings, gazelle themed, just an entire interior gazelle themed office. Everything is gazelle related.
Yeah, his entire office has got gazelles all over the fucking walls, and it's Gazelle Enterprise, and he's just he's like, oh, I love gazelles, oh, gazelles, and it's so abnormal to love gazelles as much as this guy does.
But what's good about him is at least he's provided work for the Daleks now that Doctor Who has dried up.
That's right. There's a scene where Jeff Tracy goes to visit him at first, and that's another thing. Jeff Tracy takes the opportunity to impersonate a British businessman, I guess,
yes.
Because he's like, you see him and he's dressed up like the Fat Controller from Thomas the Tank Engine. He's like, oh, jolly good show, and he's trying to put on a British accent.
Oh, bang on. Jolly good show. How am I doing, Penny?
Oh, splendidly, Jeff.
And that's all as kind of a disguise, but yeah, he goes into this lift, this automated elevator, because it's the future, obviously, an automated elevator, and the elevator's like, you are Jeff Tracy, you are meeting with Mr. Dandruff of the Gazelle Corporation. The doors are now closing!
It's quite fascinating, all the technology here, and we also see a very interesting product placement from Johnny Walker Whiskey.
That's right, Jeff Tracy drinks Johnny Walker Whiskey. And all this automated stuff, like the Gazelle fanatic, as well as being like surrounded by gazelles, he's like showing off all of his electronic stuff. He's like, oh, do you want a cigarette, Tracy? Press the button, out comes every kind of cigarette you could imagine, and it's already lit, so Jeff takes one and he's like, and what do you want to drink? And then he gets him the Johnny Walker. It's this automated whiskey dispensing machine. And then he's like, he even comes up with an excuse to test out the blinds. He's like, oh, is the sun in your eyes? Let's lower the blind. It's like he's showing off everything. We get it. You're a rich guy who's built all of his billions of dollars on fucking gazelles.
I guess this was meant to be an early episode in the syndication of the series, because it was Jerry Anderson saying, this is how things are going to be in the future. You got all these different things, like a retractable older cigarette trough, and you got this amazing bar that serves you everything just at the click of a button. It's beautiful.
And gazelles are coming back in 2065, apparently.
And speaking of which, they do view it first at an art exhibition, which is quite fascinating for two things. One, there are these two crooks there who are trying to steal the very Gazelle painting, and Jerry Anderson pulls no punches to show that these guys were in drag, just making sure they knew which one to steal.
That's right. The main villains in the film are obvious in the TV show are obviously these two guys who they're also in charge of like getting the casino rigs. They've obviously got it out for the Duchess because they make sure that she loses all her money, and they take interest in the painting, and so their plan is to take the painting, sell it to the Gazelle guy, and collect the money off them. But the first time you see them, they're in this art gallery, and they're in drag. They're just in women's clothes and they're wearing wigs, and they've got these, obviously because the Thunderbirds puppets are, you know, caricatures, that they're so obviously male faces. So you just see them walking like.
Yeah, another thing interesting about the art exhibition is that the very painting painted by Virgil in the last episode, Move When You're Dead, is actually there as well, if you really pay attention. If you really just pay attention and you freeze the episode in the right frame, you can just see it.
Yeah, it's right in the corner just as Jeff and Penelope moving in. Now that means we knew that Virgil was a talented artist, but he's gotten some work into some national galleries, which is bravo, Virg.
And also Jerry Anderson liked to do a few Easter eggs here and there, perhaps. You know, if you were a big fan of the show, you would have noticed it here and there.
But yeah, so the whole plan is to for the Duchess to sell this Gazelle painting to the Gazelle fanatic guy who's in charge of Gazelle Company. Everything seems to be going according to plan until the two cross-dressing thieves masquerade as the chauffeur who's supposed to be picking up the Duchess, and so they steal the Duchess away, tie her up in this abandoned building, take the painting, and abscond to the Gazelle Enterprises to sell it off.
But the good thing is that Lady Penelope has given her a good luck brooch with St. Christopher on it, which happens to be a tracking device for international rescue.
That's right, and Thunderbirds 1 and 2 fly to the scene in time, just in time to save the Duchess from this house which has caught fire and is burying her under smoke and gas and fire and stuff. And she's tied to a chair as well, so she's like, oh no, the gas!
There's also some perfect timing on one of the explosions where Scott is just observing the place and saying, it's a very lonely place.
The comic timing in this episode is remarkable. There's so much funny stuff about it. It's by far the funniest episode of Thunderbirds I've ever seen.
At home with the Duchess of Royston. The way that everything is just so over the top as well. She even calls Mr. Dandruff, oh, Mr. Dandruff.
Mr. Dandruff. I mean, that's...
And the thing is, this reminded me so much of Monty Python's Flying Circus. I can't help thinking that maybe John Cleese, Eric Idle, Graham Chapman, Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones must have watched Thunderbirds when they were writing all their stuff, and must have based some of their caricatures on this, because Monty Python came out in 1969, whereas this was 1965.
But they say, at the end, the Thunderbirds obviously save the Duchess using the mall. And even the crooks are caught and sent away, and she gets her money back. But in the ensuing scuffle in Gazelle Industries, the guy pulls a gun on the thief, but accidentally shoots the Gazelle painting, and it, obviously over the top, he's like, oh no, the painting, the Gazelle, oh, Gazelle. Why does he love Gazelle? What is it about gazelles that he loves so much?
Maybe he has a passion for Africa, perhaps. Maybe he just has never probably been to Africa, but he just loves the whole idea of the gazelles roaming free across the range, and they're all just there, living such a beautiful and serene and calm life out in nature, and they're just having such a great time just being out there, enjoying the sun and the sea, the watering hole perhaps, and mating with one another so freely.
Gazelles!
Okay, gazelles.
There are far more interesting animals in the United Kingdom, in the animal kingdom, than gazelles.
Yes, there is.
But of course the painting luckily turns out to just be a fake, and the Duchess had been carrying it around the whole time with her inside her little umbrella.
Mm-hmm. So it just goes to show that she wasn't as silly as we would have anticipated, but this really is that one episode that really is like watching a theatre farce. It's just so over the top, it's so physical.
Like fringe
slapstick.
theatre.
Yeah, it's just like that really. It's just something that will make you just laugh yourself silly, because there's no actual sort of like moments of suspense or horror where you just think, oh god, what's going to happen? I mean, okay, the detail on the Duchess when she's almost engulfed by the flames is brilliant, but so much of the time it's just so silly. It's like watching a caper movie.
There's no feeling of peril in this episode at all. You know she's going to be fine. There's no, danger moments where you feel anyone is in true danger. It plays out just like a comedy.
Yeah.
And it even ends spectacularly with, you know, the Duchess has got all her money back and she's secured the deal and she's got everything back and everything's back to normal. And where does she go? Straight back to the casinos again to blow it, to piss it all back up the wall.
I think this may have been a PSA for just, gambling, perhaps, because you'll never see gambling or anything like that in the kids' show anymore, and we can easily say that we don't like gambling or anyone who preys upon vulnerable people like payday loan companies.
Yeah, people who pay on, the old and the meek. In terms of like people who people who take advantage of people with gambling addictions.
Yeah, so it's kind of Joe Anderson saying that okay, if you're gonna gamble, fine, just be careful.
And make sure you know when to stop.
Absolutely, and the very wise words of Deborah of Royston, that really is the way forward. And this really is that one episode where they were trying to be like the Perils of Penelope again, but make it more and more of a comedy. Because when you've got the settings all set up for, what these guys do, who the characters are, where they go, you can always make it like one can be like a tragedy, a romance, a comedy, an adventure story. So this one was more comedy.
And I do always enjoy the episodes with Lady Penelope and Parker as the focus because they've got such a reek of fashion and extravagance to them, and of course, Lady Penelope always wears these nice clothes at the height of fashion, and so bringing along the Duchess with her, that's another fashion accessory puppet, I guess, who just comes along, just eating up just stealing every scene she's in. Your eyes just go straight to her while she's there like, oh, Penelope.
And speaking of Parker, he did go quite badass in this episode, because I was heavily reminded of the film Get Carter with Michael Caine. So I nearly said Michael Payne there. That was the parody by Harry Enfield, another great comedian. But no, when you just see him with the gun trying to shoot the guy down, saying, "Oi, all these tables are fixed."
All these tables are fixed, mon ami.
It just reminded us so much of someone like. It was like Albert in The Dark Knight. Alfred, sorry.
Oh yeah, Alfred. It's just Michael Caine. And Michael Caine has a reputation for getting quite badass. Like you say, Get Carter. I think in Alfie as well. Obviously, Italian Job. And yeah, Dark Knight. Right. I think 60 was Michael Caine. Yeah, obviously he was around in the 60s, wasn't he? I'm trying to think how much of influence Michael Caine would have been on Parker or vice versa. In fact, I think. Had they made the Thunderbirds, if they try again with a Thunderbirds movie, I think Michael Caine would be absolutely perfect casting for Parker.
I think so, and if you're wondering what we made of that 2004 live action thing, we're going to do that in a much later video.
Soon
to be. But no, this was probably the funniest episode we've seen in a very, very long time, and it's very memorable, so we can see why we enjoyed it as kids. Everything was so funny, and I guess we got a lot more of the jokes now because we're adults.
Yeah, so. And we certainly got the satire of it a lot more, I guess, now that we're a little older and, our senses of humour have matured. Now we find it even funnier, the whole ridiculousness of it.
The strange thing, though, about this episode was that we didn't see Brains at all.
No, we didn't. He was probably, I suppose it was a very straightforward rescue. Again, the only person in trouble in the whole thing is the Duchess, and it's an operation not surrounding anyone in massive danger. It's just, a gazelle painting and a gazelle enthusiast wanting to buy said gazelle painting for his gazelle-themed office. Fucking gazelles!
An entire empire built upon gazelles, because you don't really see what Gazelle Industries does, apart from all the little gadgets, but...
Maybe they built a fucking gazelle statue in Africa or something. It's the monument to the beauty that is the creature of the gazelle.
Dear me. Maybe he just pumped a load of money into
gazelles.
Into bringing the gazelles back into population, perhaps. Maybe he was just an enthusiast, so who knows?
Right. But yeah, stick around for the next episode, Brink of Disaster. This one throws Jeff Tracy into a disaster, which, is quite an interesting idea for an episode. But, you'll find out soon enough.
So tune in next time and we'll just see how the boys look after their dad.
FAB.
FAB.
Ooh!